You're tuned in to the NNW podcast. Fresh takes, big energy, no nonsense. Let's get into it.
Welcome again to the Never Not Working podcast. As always, I'm your host, Will Basko, and today it is my pleasure to have a good friend of mine, Dustin Ketchem with LG. Dustin, thank you for being part of the Never Not Working podcast today.
Yeah, man, excited to be on. I know, we both got a lot going on. You at your place and me at mine, and it's nice to get together and talk about things.
Absolutely, man. So if this is your first time watching any of our podcasts, just the lay of the land. This is not formal. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a little while. So I built this program for two reasons. One, to connect people together. So what my goal is today for you watching and for you, Dustin, is to connect people that you want to connect with personally and professionally. So we're going to go down your path of how you got to LG. I know a lot about it because you've been friends for probably 6 or 7 years now. But I get to let you talk and let you tell everybody, Dustin Ketchem, and even the ones that we've had on the show, I've learned stuff about them through just talking. So again, thank you for your time. A little bit about Dustin. He is over at LG. He is the senior manager of sales program. So I think you've been there a little over 2 years now. Is that right?
Actually, coming up on my 2-year anniversary, it'll be 2 years in March.
Okay.
So it feels like 2 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Sure. Well, tell us a little bit about Dustin. Tell us, again, we get granular here. So tell us a little bit about how you got in the industry, where you were born and raised. I know you're a huge Auburn fan. No, I'm kidding you. I know you're a Roll Tide guy. So I want to go get that out of there.
We got to get that. I'm gonna have to burn some sage or something now around here,
Well,
man.
I can edit that out. Don't worry.
All right. Yeah, we'll figure that out on the back end. No, so heating and air, man. I can't remember a day in my life where I didn't know something about heating and air, and that really goes back to the fact that my dad grew up in the business, and he came home every day from Herring Heating and Air, which was a train dealer here in Newton County. That was around for a long time, and he would come home, dirty, cobwebs, spiders, all that good stuff. And by the time I was 9, I was his free labor, and I learned all the tools in the tool bag because it was hand me this, hand me that. Give me those channel locks, give me those needle nose, give me that meter, and crawling around under houses and running flex when he didn't want to go into a corner where there might be a raccoon or something like that. I was cannon fodder.
Was there ever hey, touch this wire to see if it's live for me?
No, he was never that bad, but I'll tell you a story in a minute about my first day on the job at Covington Air Systems. So I did my first install the summer over my 12th year. So I was 12 years old when I did my first install. And that's back when Newton County, Henry County, all that stuff was booming, man. New construction everywhere. And my dad made it a point that, I was going to learn a trade. He didn't care if I was going off to college or what I was going to do. And getting through high school and everything, man, yeah, I had, so when I was about 10, my parents divorced, and my mom moved off one way, and my dad got remarried. And when I was about 15 years old, he actually ended up going to prison. And so for 5 years, I was without a dad. I was actually already living at my grandmother's. That happened during the divorce when he got remarried. That was kind of a rough 5 years, man. I was an angry kid, angry at the world. Didn't really have any direction. Got kicked out of school. Was actually in all accelerated classes and all that stuff. I'd never not had straight A's. We talk about never not working, and I was a pretty good student up until that point, and really spiraled, man. Went down in a deep dark place. Tried to chase my dad. Basically, came out of it when I was about 23 years old. This was right around the time I was actually working for Covington Air Systems. So the story about Covington Air Systems is, my grandmother insisted after I got kicked out of school, I go get my GED. And I got my GED, and she said, okay, well, you're going to go learn a trade. And I said, well, let's go the easy route and go to school for heating and air, because I already know so much about it.
Sure.
And I thought I knew a lot about heating and air, man. But Ronnie Carr, here in Newton County native, old school guy, if you bring his name up around any of the blue hairs, they'll know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah. And Ronnie helped me through that program, showed me proper techniques on superheat and subcool and all the stuff that you don't learn from your dad, who's a beer can cold guy. pretty eye opening, and it got me to where I was, which was I got a little job with Covington Air Systems as a service technician, and worked my way up from there. One of the cool things about being a service technician at Covington Air Systems was they are kind of like the preferred heating and air company around here. Doug Biggers and Byron Hopper, both great guys, still very good stewards of their community. I see Byron every once in a while at the gym and stuff like that. So very involved around here. But they gave me a shot, and the first day on the job, riding around as an apprentice, the guy I was with, we went to a little grocery store. It was Doug's place. I don't even know the name of the grocery store because we just knew it was Doug's.
Right.
And we were in the back working on a cooler, and he hit the disconnect and went to go reach up under to grab some wires and blew a chunk of meat out of his arm.
Yeah.
And somebody had bypassed the disconnect. And first day on the job, I learned real quick something that you can't learn in the lab, which is when something says it's off, it ain't off all the time. So
Sure.
I found out real quick to always use your meter and check something before you touch it.
Yeah. That's some
I
serious.
rewired a house in Porterdale, but we're not going to talk about Porterdale because then I have to tell the other story you told me not to worry about telling on here.
That's some really good on the job training right there.
That's great on the job training. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically getting kicked out of school led me to where I am, man. I had goals of being an architect or an attorney. Those were the two paths that I really wanted to explore before I kind of went off the deep end. And so ended up doing what my daddy does. That's a trend out here in rural Georgia, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got really good at selling preventative maintenance agreements. I said one of the really cool things about working for Covington Air was that they were so embedded in the community. Dale Carter and Jake Reed are two local legends. Both of them played football here, Newton County High School, and they went to school with my dad. And both great athletes. They actually were from the same family, different dads. And I did maintenance on their mom's house. The Ginn Motor Company over here, I sold Billy Fortson their first preventative maintenance agreement with Covington Air. So really got out and got to use some networking, and I got really good at networking and selling stuff to some of the bigger people in town. And my grandmother one day, she always paid attention to me and knew exactly what I needed to do. Said, well, you need to go do real estate. It seems like you'd be pretty good at sales. And so I went and got my real estate license. Did that for about 6 years, became assistant marketing manager at a local realtor that has some new construction projects and stuff like that. At one point, we had 11 subdivisions. Then I caused a nationwide recession. I shouldn't have ever got into real estate, man. I ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. So
So
2008-ish.
2008, 2009, I went financially bankrupt. I mean, when you're making $150,000 a year and you go from 150, 160 to 20 or 30, you start, realizing that you got $150,000 worth of bills.
Yeah, sure.
And so literally financially bankrupt, and cashed everything out, hit rock bottom. I was actually cutting grass for $9 an hour down at Lake Oconee with Willow Oak landscapers down there. They, working with the Amigos, doing commercial, all those shopping centers and everything down there, Lake Oconee, cutting grass, and learned a lot about the business. It was great, but you're never going to be rich if you're on a lawnmower. I promise you.
Sure.
Those guys work their butts off, and don't get paid enough if you ask me. I'm sure they're probably still down in that $11-12 an hour range. It's just it's the kind of business that you operate in. My stepdad got me an interview with another Georgia guy, Grady Smith, Smith Brothers Heating and Air out in Augusta, Georgia. At the time, if anybody knows Grady or knew Grady, because he's passed away now, Grady was a huge personality. He was not only the owner of Smith Brothers, he was a county commissioner down in Augusta, and he was mayor pro tem. So whenever the mayor was sick or arrested or anything like that, that was when Grady stepped in. I actually think at the time, I'd have to go back and look at the papers, but I think that the mayor was actually in jail at the time, and Grady was mayor of Augusta. So I'm sitting in
Okay.
here with the mayor of Augusta trying to get a job just to ride around in a service truck. And Grady says, Dustin, I could put you in a service truck tomorrow. He said, but you need to be in sales. He said, I'm going to call my territory manager, who was Scott Shell at the time with Mingledorf's.
I know Scott
And
very well.
yep, man, Scott and I got together. I guess I came back down there about 2 days later and met with Scott. He got my resume. We talked for a little while. And then literally 2, 3 weeks later, because that's how fast an independent wholesale distributor can move, I was sitting on the counter in Lawrenceville with Greg Mihawk and Shane Hutchins and Jeff Vetter and all those good old boys over at
Yep.
immediately walking through the door. I'm like, I want to be a counter guy. That's cool. I get to sit behind a computer all day and talk to people. Shane was like, no, you're going to get your butt out in the warehouse and you're going to learn how this thing runs. And I just took over this location. He was the manager. And he's like, I just took over this location and we're going to get everything cleaned up. So I went out and started sorting stuff, putting things, working with Randy, who was out in the warehouse, putting things on shelves in the right places and getting the inventory cleaned up and making sure everything was in, easy to get to, bin locations and all that stuff I'd never had to do before, but I knew what everything was because of my background with my dad.
Sure.
And then it came time for me to come into the showroom. I'm like, cool, I finally get to get on the computer and do stuff. And he's like, no, you get to reorganize the showroom. And got in there and redid the end caps and put all the copper pieces in place and literally learned the whole business. Not the whole business, but learned the whole, how things need to be organized and all that from a distribution level really early. And then I got to sit behind the desk and start talking to people, which is something that I've always enjoyed doing, man. My mom said, she couldn't bring me anywhere without me jumping in and making friends with somebody. And so it was really natural for me to work on the other side of the counter. I have empathy for the guys because sometimes things mess up and you got to get apart in a certain amount of time. But uh, man, you run through some notepads. I know the counter guys that are watching this are going to be like, yeah, you do. If you've been a former counter guy, I know you had your time at Mingledorf's and everything.
Absolutely.
You run through some notepads, man. If you don't keep notes, you're going to get your butt chewed out one day and you ain't going to have any proof to back you up. But somebody asks for, next day air or something like that, and you put it on the ground, you're gonna get it handed back to you.
Yeah.
So started developing relationships, really enjoyed helping take care of people, man. That was kind of the thing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that really whole having empathy for people and looking out for your customers kind of got me to where I am today. Things kind of got touchy. I don't know exactly what all happened, man. I still to this day have not been able to corner Shane Hutchins to say what happened. But I walked in one day, and this was after, we had a pain bundle promotion. I was number one in the company, from the Gulf Coast all the way up at the bundle promotion. Had the highest line items per invoice of just about anybody in the company. Our store in particular had the highest turns. Not saying I had any credit for that, but I did reorganize the whole store, including the end caps. And so we were actually operating pretty good, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job. But walked in one day, and Katy Perry from HR was sitting in the office, and I was like, okay, Katy. And about 10 minutes later, Shane and Katy are like, come in here. And so I walk into the break room, and we sit down, and Shane says, hey, man, we just don't think it's working out. You don't fit the culture. And I was like, was there anything else I did? And he's like, they were kind of tight-lipped. I don't, it was strange, but it's one of those, if you ever read Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights, it was one of those moments where at the time it was, dude, I cried. It was pretty devastating to me because it was the first time in my life I felt like I was on the path that I needed to be on. And it was a green light moment, though, on the back end. So it was a red light at the time, and I ended up getting a assistant sales associate or sales associate position with Watsco at the East Coast Metals over in Forest Park. And I was basically the assistant for all the territory managers in the Metro Atlanta market. And so I did takeoffs. I did any kind of quotes that they needed me to do, put together all that stuff. So I learned a lot more on that end of the business than that I didn't necessarily know from working at Mingledorf's. And doing takeoffs and stuff, that all came naturally. I had actually done a little bit of sub work during my time in real estate as a sheet metal guy for Covington Air. They would let me go out and do some light commercial jobs and stuff like that with the crew. So I had some knowing knowledge of what a schedule was and how to walk through all that stuff. So that was that was where I was at that moment and didn't really know what I was going to do next. I didn't really want to stay at East Coast. No offense to them. But there was an opportunity that actually came up because of a tragedy in the family. My wife's father was victim of a gun accident, and he actually got shot in the face and was
Oh, wow.
at the Shepherd Center in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He survived being shot in the face, went blind from the flash. It was at point blank, and we were up in Chattanooga, me and the wife walking around one day, and we were looking for something to do, and she pulled up the Chattanooga's local paper up there. I think it's the Times Free Press, and noticed there was like 100 free events that day. I mean, this was just a typical weekend. This wasn't like the 4th of July weekend or anything like that. It's just a typical weekend in Chattanooga, and there's like 100 different things to do. She was actually pregnant at the time, and I had my daughter that I got from when I was younger. I got custody of her when I was 27. And so she was 4 or 5 at the time, and we were like, let's look at the schools, just because we were interested to see what it would be like to live in Chattanooga,
Yeah, I
and
love
really
that.
liked the area. Decided before I even had a job up there that we were going to move to Chattanooga, and looked around through the Watsco career website and found a branch manager job. Got in touch with Glenn Loper up there and went to work for Carrier. We got transferred from one, East Coast Metal Watsco facility to be branch manager of the Carrier enterprise up there in Chattanooga, and got to go up there and use my skills in relationship building and networking, and reorganized the showroom and got the showroom painted. Brought one of the guys in from the warehouse to be my counter guy. That's Cody Walden. Cody's been a friend since then. He was about 18 years old at the time working out in the warehouse, and I
Yeah,
pegged him to come up just because he had great aptitude, and he's definitely proved his worth. He's actually working for Mitsubishi Electric Train US now, and is
yeah,
a
really
great
good guy. I know
ASM there.
Cody very
Yeah,
well too.
great guy, great family guy. I don't want to say too many nice things about him because I'll probably have to talk to him at some point.
Yeah, and he's a Roll Tide guy too for some odd
He
reason.
is Roll Tide, baby. Yeah, that
Absolutely.
still got to burn that sage out here. I know I'm outside, but man, you said a dirty word. So yeah, man, that's the beginning of it. Now after Carrier, this is how long I've been and how many different roles I've had. After Carrier, we wanted to get a little bit. I don't know. I got burned. That was basically I got burned out being a branch manager. Man, that is a tough role.
It really is. It
It
really
is
is.
a tough role, and I still wanted to do the whole relationship building, networking thing. Worked my way around and found an opportunity in Dalton, Georgia. There was a Hajoka down there that was strictly plumbing and pipe fitting. They didn't have any heating and air. The guy that was running at the time, he needed somebody to come down and help him get some accounts going so that he could justify expanding and bringing in more product and getting a bigger building. So hired me as the territory manager, and literally first day on the job, I go to a heat and air contractor out there, Rod Adams. I cannot remember the name of the company right off the top of my head, man. But he's in Dalton, Georgia, and this is how you know you're in North Georgia on your first day of the job. You walk in and you walk out with a jar of moonshine. Now you might have to bleep out Rod Adams' name from this so he don't have the tax man coming and knocking on his door. But that's working in North Georgia
Yeah,
for you. And loved it, man. It's a good old boy network up there. So it was basically just making friends. People buy from people. You know that.
yeah,
It's
100%.
yeah, it's a found out I was still really good, even though I'd been a branch manager, and it's still relationship management, but it's a lot of operations and stuff. And then the role that I had before that with Watsco, which was not customer facing, you're just sitting in the back room doing takeoffs and different things like that. So the transition from there to territory manager was great, but we had a new baby. I told you my wife was pregnant when we moved to Chattanooga. She had the baby, and Bonham was about 8 years old. 8 years old. His sister was about 8 years old, and Bon was about 1 year old when we decided that we wanted to get back closer to Atlanta. My
Yeah,
daughter wanted to see her mom more. She wasn't seeing her mom as much as she wanted, and the baby, she wanted him to grow up around family and everything. So we moved back to Atlanta, and I took a position with Climatic Comfort Products as a territory manager. And with that, I got another rural territory. I had everything from I-20 South down to Macon and then across the state to Savannah. And it was me and Jim Lacey riding around, going to see
Yeah,
customers.
good
Yeah,
old.
man. Good old Jim. Riding around, going to see customers, and same old thing, man. It was a good old boy network. So, you know, first 6 months is just going out and making friends and letting everybody know they can trust you. You're looking out for them. And some people, it didn't take that long. They realized I was, you know, I was the guy that was looking out for them. And that territory manager relationship, man, I always told anybody that was coming in, had never been a territory manager or anything like that before. I said, you know, it's really your job is to kind of walk that fine line between who you get your paycheck from and who you're looking out for, because you're really, if you're really looking out for your dealers, you really have to be conscientious of the fact that the distributor you work for is paying your paycheck, right?
Sure, sure.
But you got to make sure that people are getting product when they need it. You got to make sure they're getting the pricing they need, and you got to make sure that they're learning what they need to go out and succeed. Now, I wasn't as polished at that point in my career, and it was more of a moving boxes gig. Climatic decided to invest in me and send me to train Leap, which is their leadership program for their territory managers and their distributor territory managers. And that was eye opening to me, man. I told you my dad grew up as a train dealer, working for a train dealer. During that time, I told you I was down landscaping. Just before I was a landscaper down there, I was actually doing some lead gen and in home sales stuff for a company out of Conyers. So I had played around in home sales and in different things like that. But I'd actually while I was working there for that company in Conyers doing lead gen work, I got sent to train boot camp. So, you know, before I ever got to Leap or anything like that, I had been to boot camp, man. And that was uh, what really got me back into the business, or interested in getting back into the business, was that boot camp. And that's when I actually, you know, I don't know, that was a mind blowing moment for me. But then going to Leap, I got to see everything that was going on over at Train and how Train operates and what Train does to go out and build markets and build dealers and different things like that. Very impressive company, still a very impressive company. Still got a lot of friends over there, and it's you know, that business over there is about growing, educating dealers, growing dealerships, and it's not about moving boxes. They just know that the better quality your dealers are, the better educated they are, the better trained they are, the better the dealer base is going to be. And that's why Train has such a great dealer base, is because they focused so much attention on business education and technical training. And they might have the highest prices in the market, but their dealers know how to go sell the equipment and make a margin. It's a great business, and I got to learn a whole lot over there. I would say that this second half of my career, you know, you got kind of like the counter guy, TM scrub. I still wasn't a real TM at that point when I was working for Climatic. I really became a real TM at Train, and the more I learned, and you never run out of opportunities to learn when you're at Train. The more I learned, the more opportunities I got. They would send me out to the West Coast to go learn about Service Titan. They'd send me out to Utah to go learn about Podium. I had basically become one of the go-to guys here in the Georgia market that was learning more and more about the program as far as TCS went. And that was during the time that they were actually switching from the standard like TCS program to kind of like the a la carte program with all the vendors built in and all that stuff. And I got to watch Steve Ortley and Paige and Emma and everybody kind of work on the back end,
Right.
putting all that stuff together. And that was what they armed their territory managers with to go out and succeed in the market, man. That was what they used when they went and sat down with a dealer and asked questions, because that's really your role, is not to talk the whole time like you got me doing today, but to go out and ask open-ended questions and get these guys to talk so you can learn about their business and figure out how you can help them. That's what Train's great at. That's why they've got, 30, 40 vendors in the program. It's not, you don't need to know everything about every vendor, but if a guy says, hey man, I'm having issues with my sales guys going out, and, we put together proposals and get them back to the customers. And by the time we get them back to them, they've already signed a deal with somebody else. What do I need to do about this? I'm losing all my business to the guy down the road. I said, well, it sounds to me like you need to stop leaving the house and putting together your proposal at the office and sending it back 2 or 3 days later. Why don't we
Yeah.
get you with the proposal tool? And so, we'd get them on Price Book Plus or something like that. and change their lives, and they're embedded with you at that point. You're the best friend. You're helping them take care of their business, which is helping them take care of their employees and the community and everybody else. So, that's a big thing that I think that people on this side of the business, when they're successful, they have a good understanding of the role that they play. And what got me up every day, and what still gets me up every day, is the fact that we're helping people not only grow their business and be able to send their kids off to school and pay for weddings and all the stuff that's important, but we're helping them help their employees and other people in their community when it comes to the way that they run their business. And if you can make people better business people and teach them how to make more money, not necessarily just for themselves, but I mean, golly, man, if you're running a profitable company, you can offer benefits and you can help people get health insurance, and you can help people plan for their retirement. And it was a lot of guys get into the business as service technicians and stuff like that, and they see their bosses making a whole bunch of money, but they don't really realize everything that their boss is having to do to keep that company going and to give back to the community the way they do, and everything that a good, successful heating and air contractor does. It's
So
a
much
lot more
stuff on the
than
back end. Yeah, so much
so
stuff on
much
the back
stuff on the
end
back
that
end.
people
Yeah.
don't realize. Yeah.
And that's it, man. And if you do a good job and you take care of your customers, they go to the ball field and they go to church and they go to school functions and stuff like that, and they talk you up. And word of mouth is a great way to get into the community. But at the end of the day, we would teach the guys also how to market themselves and get more of those people that can go out. And if you impress a customer and you give them something that they really want, they really like, especially if they pay a whole lot of money for it. If they pay, I've found that actually the more money they pay for something, the more likely they are to go and brag about it if it's a good experience. If they spend
100%.
$25,000 on a heating and air system, they're going to go brag about that thing to everybody in the neighborhood and everybody at the ball field. So
Yeah,
that's what
I always wondered why our industry called these, like, the people that the TM. I don't understand why we always called them territory managers, because it's literally relationship managers. Like you
it
said
is.
earlier, people buy from people, and I can vouch for that you can vouch for that. There's so many salespeople that said, hey, it doesn't matter what I sell, I can sell it to my person because of the relationship I built
That's
with
right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I know that's how you operate, and that's how I operate, man. It's I call them trusted business advisors.
Yeah, 100%.
TBA. It's our job to come in and learn about your business and give you feedback, and you can either take it or leave it. My 19-year-old daughter tell me when I'm giving her advice, she thinks that it's an order. So apparently I'm pretty persuasive because I'm serious. I'm not trying to tell her what to do. I'm just telling her what I would do, and she's like, "Oh, I better go do it." You know.
Right, right.
And I think that is maybe a superpower, a sales superpower that I have, is that people tend to trust what I have to say, and that's helped a lot of people make a lot of money. And it's not because I know everything. I don't want to come off like that. I definitely don't know everything. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. But if I don't know something, I do have a friend that knows, and that's why I've got a lot of friends like you. I've got friends all over the industry in different roles. Me and you are a little bit closer than probably most of them because you're like 20, 30 minutes up the road from me. But I've had a national role for too long because me and you hardly ever get to get together anymore. Um, but so I worked my way out of that TM role and into the programs. I had the opportunity after the joint venture started to go over to Mitsubishi Electric Train US and worked there as an ASM for about a year. And I had the opportunity. Lacey Dietz, who's over there, who's a phenomenal person. She's actually in the supply chain and logistics side of the business now, but she called me into the office one day and she said, "Hey, what would you think about taking over the role that I'm in?" And she was handling the program at that time, and she knew she was going to be able to move in on to Robert Smith's team and be on the supply chain side. She said, what would you think about taking over the program? I know you're really passionate about this kind of stuff." And I was like, "Yeah." So I took a pay cut, man. I took a big pay cut, probably about 20% of my income to get into programs,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because it's something I really wanted to do. It felt like, I'd been the TM and I'd been armed with all the stuff that Train had for me to go out there and succeed in the field. But then on the flip side of that, to be able to actually put that stuff together was 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 fun. You got to be a little bit of a masochist though, man, because you do go through a lot of getting beat up by people. Change is hard sometimes, and when you add new stuff and you do new things, which is what I came into the program to do, was kind of take what was kind of a standard program for the last maybe 6 or 7 years before I got there. Not to say it was a bad program, it just wasn't. It hadn't been really brought into the 2020s yet, and so worked my butt off with the rest of the team there, and they got a great team over there from marketing to sales support and all that stuff. We all worked together and kind of revamped the program a little bit and updated it for the 20s, and that was a lot of fun. My separation from them was pretty public. I put it on LinkedIn, so if you want to know what happened at Mitsubishi, you can go on LinkedIn and find it. I
Yeah.
still have a lot of friends over there. I would say 90% of the people there were awesome, and I really enjoyed it. It was a difference in culture that
Yeah.
I think it come down the line. Not to say that the culture at Mitsubishi hadn't been great for a long time, and there are a lot of great people over there, but top down kind of leadership stuff. I was in a situation where I'd already been talking to LG for a little while before anything crazy happened, and I went about 2 months without a paycheck because I opened my mouth and walked away from my job. Everybody else got severance
Yeah.
checks, but I got the brown end of the stick, as they would say, the
Yeah.
stinky end of the
I
stick, as
got
they
you.
would say.
I got you.
So went 2 or 3 months without a paycheck, but landed at LG. And here's the thing about LG, because that's really what I should have been talking about this whole time. What we've got going on at LG, and the reason that I went to LG, is because we're building something special. And anybody that has been with us for the last year and a half, I'd say 12 to 18 months, has seen the changes that we're going through. And we're still kind of in that cocoon stage, right?
Yeah.
That we still haven't fully blossomed as like the big vision that's behind this whole thing. But there's a lot going on at LG, from the revamp that we're seeing with aftermarket support being led by Mark Rogers and that team, to the way that we approach marketing in the field, and how we approach our dealers on a face-to-face level as far as helping them with their marketing strategies and different things like that, which is Winona Rogers, to our builder team. Well, they don't like to be called the builder team. They are the applications specialists. It's ads. I forget what the D is now, but Terry Freshenda, Phil Kriegbaum, and a few other guys over there on that side of the business. They do a great job. If you don't know Terry and Phil run our podcast, the LG. Goodness gracious, you're gonna have to edit this part because I got to go see. I got to give these boys a plug. LG Tech Show? Is it Tech Show?
I have seen that. I don't know Terry. I've met Phil once back in the day. So
Yeah,
super nice guy.
they are.
Really.
They're great. It's the LG podcast, HVAC. Let's see. Service Business Mastery. There's those guys. Shoot, man. I guess we need to make it easier to find our podcast. Yeah. Well, I find Service Business Mastery all over the LG Procast. So Terry and Phil both run our podcast over here at LG, the LG Procast, and they're great guys. They're on the application side of the business, and then we've got a whole government and utilities team. They can come out and help with big projects, help people capture the rebates they need. And really, they lobby different organizations around the country to make sure that LG is in a position to go win in markets, and has a voice at the table when it comes to setting regional rebates, utility rebates, and different things like that. So we've got a lot of support on the back end for dealers and distributors that make it a really great place for them to be right now. And if you talk to any of our distributors that have been with us for a while, they will tell you that in the last 12 to 18 months, the support and the programs and the products and everything that they're seeing from LG has really stepped up. And I always tell people, when LG came to America, they actually entered the market by buying Zenith. And in 2005, 2007, right there in that time range, is when they actually sunset the Zenith brand and brought LG into the market with appliances and televisions. The goal was to be number one in appliances and number one in displays. And today they're number one. They're the number one manufacturer of appliances. They're the number one manufacturer of displays. Right now, if you talk to Korean leadership, they'll tell you that their goal is to be number one in heating and air in America. And we've got unitary products now. So what that means is we've got smart split systems from 16 SEER all the way up to the 1920. They're all heat pump. We don't do AC only. The LG Red models go way down in the negative range before they start losing any kind of real capacity. The package systems are on the way. 2 to 5 ton will be coming out here pretty soon. Looking like Q4, Q1. That could be here in the next month or two. Could be 3 or 4 months down the road. But we will have that 2 to 5 ton package system, and then after that, we'll have the 6 to 25 ton stuff coming out along the way in 2026, 2027. So we've got a lot of product coming out. We've got a manufacturing facility now in Huntsville, Alabama, where we're making a lot of the indoor units, and our heat pump water heater, our inverter heat pump water heater will be manufactured at the Huntsville factory. And it's we've expanded our sales team. The sales team when I first came on was probably 15 to 20 people, and now we're up to like 30 to 40. We've actually onboarded 2 new people just in the last month or two. And then we've got a couple more in the pipeline to come on out on the West Coast. So there's there's a lot of growth, a lot of stuff going on. While it's unfortunate, but I think the rest of the industry is kind of seeing a little bit of attrition and the market slow down a little bit. But it was a great time for us to come out with a whole home product, because we're actually able to go to our distributors and say, hey, we know you got this B brand over here, but how about coming on board with one of the most recognizable brands in the world and be able to power your customer sales with this product. And then the program, we've got our Pathway to Platinum, which is the new rendition of the LG Pro Dealer program. The Pathway to Platinum is, in the past, LG had only rewarded dealers for purchasing equipment. That's the only thing that would help them move up through the tiers. We've got bronze, gold, and platinum here. And the only thing that could get them up to that platinum level was buying enough equipment. Now, you got guys out in rural markets that might have a tough time selling 50 to 100 systems a year, and they would never be able to make it into the gold or platinum range just because they weren't buying enough. And what we really wanted to do when we revamped the program was find ways to reward them so that they can move up for things more than just purchasing equipment, because we know when we've got highly trained dealers who were doing business education and who were doing technical training and who were participating in marketing programs, that they're going to grow their business naturally. And that was one of the ways for us to say, hey, well, if these guys aren't able to make it to the platinum level because they're not buying enough equipment, how about we reward them for the behaviors that will help them buy more equipment? And
Sure.
so
Yeah,
it's been a fundamental change in the way that we're approaching our dealers, but it is something that we're going to see long-term sustained growth with, because it is making us that trusted business advisor. And we're in the middle of turning our sales team into trusted business advisors. We've got to take some of the stuff that everybody's learned, not just us, but also people on the sales team, and take some of the stuff that we've learned along the way and make sure that we're that mind hive and we're sharing all that information with each other and lifting each other up. So we've got some internal training stuff going on right now that we're developing, and actually it gets launched in December this year. And then we've got some big stuff going on with EGIA, with a strategic partnership that is going to allow us to pass that same kind of education opportunity down to our distributors and dealers. And great team over there. More Georgia folks, Bob Larkin and Dave Holder, helping us out with that project. So I think Georgia runs the heat and air industry, if you ask me. I don't know.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I had Tucker Green on here the other day, that over at CAG, and he was saying the same thing. So
Yeah.
is setting pace for the heat and air market for sure.
Well, you mentioned Tucker, Will. So there's something else big, and this will be the first public announcement of this.
Hey,
But
the
we
Never
are
Market podcast,
LG,
exclusive.
like some of the other manufacturers who have seen a need where you have pockets of the country where you don't have solid distribution. LG is actually going to be opening factory-owned distribution here in Georgia. It'll be our first endeavor into factory-owned distribution, and our first location will be in Norcross, Georgia. We're looking to open up sometime probably during the summer this year, and then with a big grand opening in the fall. But that's a project that I will be intimately involved in. I had a conversation with leadership last week and was pegged to help lead up that opportunity. And I'm excited to be able to kind of get back to my roots. Go spend some time with guys like Tucker and the rest of the team at CAG and MACA and everywhere else, and kind of get embedded back into my good old boy club here in Georgia, man. And that's exciting. Might even get to work with you a little bit. We'll see.
Heck yeah, that's huge news, man. That is huge that you guys are going into distribution like that. I know that's exciting for you, not just LG in a whole, because that's something that it's pretty cool too. LG, I think it just has that name to it that the consumer already knows. We fall into the world of heating and air where you've seen it where a contractor would call the homeowner and say, "What kind of air conditioning you got?" And they say, "Well, I've got a Honeywell or a Temp Star," just because of the name of the thermostat. So
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
the good thing about it, LG is a recognizable name for that consumer, so it's going to be a win-win for you guys. So,
that's right.
man, what a story, Dustin. That was awesome to hear about some things that I didn't know about. So I got to learn a little bit about you today. One thing that we always do on this show is the I know a guy segment, because we always want to put people together in a way of, hey, if and I imagine this chain link with Patrick Lane being my first guest of, hey, every link adding something to that. So, Dustin, you're my last chain link for now. Who do you want to meet professionally, and who do you want to meet personally? And the reason, and it could be anybody. It could be
It has to
if
be
it's
somebody I haven't met.
nah, well, maybe re-meet them. Whatever.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. This is just about connecting people together. So anybody that where, if you say, "Hey, I'd really like to
man.
meet so and so," and I have the, "Hey, I know a guy that can
Yeah.
get you together." So that's exactly what this show is about.
Okay. Um, Man, I'm gonna tell you, being in a national role the last few years, I've had some opportunities to meet some people, a lot of
Sure.
people. That's a good one to think about, though. I know Mike Capuccio from NETR, which is like the biggest heat pump seller, and I mean at the time before he sold his company, and Mike Capuccio's was one of them. Tommy Mello, I got to meet Tommy. He's a garage guy, but man, he knows how to run a business.
Yeah, I met him
Tersh and
once. It,
Josh with Service Business. You met Tommy Mello, yeah.
yeah.
Man, there's been a lot. The ShamWow guy, he died, didn't he?
I don't I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. There's no, I'm just playing. God, man, if I can meet anybody, I'm a history buff on the back end, so like I can't meet John Adams or Thomas Jefferson, right? I would say I don't know. There's nobody I can think of that I'm dying to meet in the business.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Who do you need to meet on the professional side on LG? Tell me who LG needs to meet.
We
And I
need
know
to
the answer. You need to find
man,
directors, right?
we need to meet the best business people running heat and air companies in America. Now, we've got some PE relationships and stuff like that, but I think that's probably who would be the most important. And it's just to have a conversation, man, to let them know where we're at and where we're headed, and to find out where they're at and where they're headed. And to figure out what their wants and needs are, because I mean that's kind of like the lifeblood here, especially right now, is just getting to know and understand a lot of these dealers out there. On a personal level, I got to meet Nick Saban, man. So,
Oh, yeah.
you
Okay.
know, it really hooked that up for me actually this year I got to meet him. After meeting Nick Saban, that's kind of like meeting Jesus here.
Holy cow.
Short of meeting my maker, man, I would say somebody I would actually like to meet and hang out with and be able to pick their brain would probably be Kalen DeBoer.
Okay.
The guy has been a champion wherever he's gone. It didn't, me and you talked about that a little bit yesterday, just pre-call. And I think to learn from people who have succeeded in various roles and overcome adversity and things like that, that is what I like listening to and hearing. And if I can meet those people in person and just get a little bit of that vibe, man. Just try to get some of that good juju and take some
Yeah.
for yourself. I was watching if you haven't seen the Eddie I'm doing a plug for Netflix right now. If you haven't seen the Eddie Murphy documentary on Netflix, man, that guy's a winner. And he's
Saw
one
it
of the
last.
only people that could win at that level and not lose their mind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw that pop up last night, and that's something I do want to watch. I have not watched it yet. So,
Yep.
well, man, again, thank you for your time. One quick plug for LG. So these people that are watching this that want to be involved with LG, tell them an easy way to get find the right person
Yep.
to get on board with you guys.
So if you go to lghvac.com, we've got a form in there that dealers can fill out to get more information on the LG Pro Dealer Program. You can also reach out to me personally at .ketchem, that's Ketchem at lge.com. Again, it's d.ketchem, Ketchem. A lot of people like to put a U in there because of ketchup. Yeah, but it's not. It's Ketchem, not Ketchum
Gotcha.
at lge.com. So that's probably the best way is just hit me up and I can connect you with whatever distributor or area sales managers out there. Another cool thing about us is we have a unique structure to our sales team. We've actually got a specific salespeople who are focused on distribution and specific salespeople who are focused on contractor development. So they work in tandem with each other. You know, they make sure that the distributors getting the support for their contractors they need, and the contractors are making sure they get the support they need from the distributors. So our guys work in tandem in any given market, and that's really been that extra layer of support and structure that really helps us succeed. So getting those dealers hooked up with somebody like that and getting them to run through the program or product and stuff with them would probably be the next step. Just to gauge the interest from both sides and see if there's a way for us to come in and be that trusted business advisor and help them overcome whatever hurdles they've got in their business.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. As always, all this information will be in the body of this video. We'll put this on YouTube, hopefully Instagram. I just added an Instagram channel. But man, again, Dustin, I appreciate you more than you know. I appreciate your friendship. You've always been a ear for me to sound some stuff off on. So I appreciate you. But man, thank you for taking your lunch hour and spending the day with me. We're going to sign off now. As always, I'm Will Basko, and I'm never not working.